Hello class, my name is Melanie Menudo. Today I would like to explore the topic of the dangers of leaving domestic violence situations. Domestic violence touches many lives. Throughout history there has been information gathered on this topic. The question about safety brings up issues with functionality. How do we as a society set up a safety net for those removing themselves from abusive relationships? Is there a way to make it safer or easier to leave a relationship instead of staying in one? There are many reasons to choose to stay. If there are children involved, leaving can be messy and even more risky. There are other reasons to go along with this concept. Women tend to go back to abusive relationships due to lack of financial stability, lack of outside support due to isolation tactics, or the feeling that the abuse is the victim's fault and their behavior shapes or brings about the violence. In 2013, a study followed the mixed methodology of exploratory research on understanding academic writing. It connected the thought of a two-step approach of quantitative or pre-test post-test and qualitative or case study to complete the findings. Gulhan, Fair, and Orhan tested 5th grade students on their competency with academic writing. The paper explores the use of mixed methodology. As such, it brings it into possibility of using mixed methodology in cases of domestic violence. With the ability to write down thoughts, hold on to good memories, or even articulate trauma, it can be a useful tool in removing oneself from that situation. Finding relevant studies on this topic is not difficult. Scientific minds want to understand what makes an individual stay in situations that are not good for them. In this case, the IRIS system was created. The IRIS, or Identification and Referral to Improve Safety, was created to give individuals the opportunity to remove themselves from domestic violence situations. The program was based in the United Kingdom. The pilot study on preventing domestic violence and abuse was based in Hackney and London. The study showed significant results in the sheer amount of women that have experienced domestic violence and have a connection with general or practical medicine. Core areas of the program are training and education, clinical inquiry, care pathways, and an enhanced referral pathway to specialist domestic services for violence survivors. IRIS 2012. The study showed that those in these types of positions have lived through domestic violence situations and understand how not to inflict pain on the client by way of upsetting the aggressor. It is true that domestic violence affects every aspect of life. However, the study showed significant results that the largest damage is to the psyche itself. With the feeling of blame being put on the victim for most of the aggression, it is easy to see why the individuals choose to stay in these types of relationships, even if the outcome is further distress. In some cases, the training is not available to be useful for those in domestic violence situations. A study written in 2014 by Zahara Keogh and Ratnapalan found that science can be ineffective in this case and cause more waves than empathy or understanding. According to their study, online education using a problem-based learning format improved practicing physicians' perceptions, knowledge, and skills in managing domestic violence. The devised study placed more importance on practice than research, reviewing case studies, and being able to read between the lines of things that the client cannot say. A quantitative study would be one of exploring statistics of domestic violence, how many victims, how long they have stayed in the relationship, and how long they lived in that type of situation. A qualitative study would explore how it feels to be trapped, stuck in this type of relationship. With a mixed method view, one can combine the two and create a fully immersive study. Creating a study on the question of making it easier to leave abusive relationships is difficult, as each instance and situation is different. There must be significant environmental statistics added. For one, does the victim work, or are they allowed to leave the house? By creating a face-to-face connection with the victim, then setting up an online survey to create the quantitative data collection implement may work best for this type of situation. This would be a two-pronged study that would rely on an interview and a follow-up. The participants will be those that are in or has gotten out of an abusive relationship, ages 25 to 40. Using mixed methodology creates a more in-depth study, and it covers the data and emotions behind the situation. The ethical issues rely upon informed consent, anonymity, and the use of aliases for publication purposes. When studying this type of volatile settings, indiscretion is key to gaining trust in correct data. Domestic abuse is an interesting case of society turning a blind eye to what happens within a home. Creating a safe way to leave these types of situations only helps so much. Until it is seen as the detriment to society that it is, domestic violence will continue to occur. By shining a light on difficult cases, perhaps society can begin to say no more. In order to create a safe way for individuals to leave a domestic violence situation, society must group together and help. It seems that random people are not willing to step up and stick one's neck out for others. Being safe should not be a dream. As such, this research can aid in ways of finding people that are willing to help, set up places in local areas with high rates of domestic violence calls to the police, or by creating a way to get help online. No one should have to feel isolated from society by someone else's hands. Thank you for listening to my discussion.